first one is starts with Steve Jobs. And everyone loves, or now everyone's kind of lionizing Steve Jobs. But the thing about Steve Jobs is he had a singular vision of what was going to happen with this stuff, and he stuck to it from the 70s until now, and it's finally paying off. And then one of the ways you could actually see how it's paying off is essentially if you look at the stock prices of his other rival boomer, when I say baby boomer, Bill Gates. And this is the stock prices starting in 1990 when they basically were the same between Microsoft and Apple. And of course, what happened with Microsoft is in the 90s, over the boom, their stock price went crazy. And everybody thought, oh my God, this is like, it totally made sense. That was the way. And Jobs just kept going, nope, nope, nope. It's this mobile, personalized thing, and I'm just going to keep at this thing. And he kept going, kept going, kept going. And what happened? Eventually, by the last decade, the 2000s, it started catching on with his ideas. And ultimately, it was the iPod, then it was the iPhone, and then now it's the iPad. And now Apple is the most valuable technology company in the world, bar none. And in fact, it's going up. So what is that vision then? Well, one of the visions, this is the latest manifestation of it. People say, well, what's with this kind of iPad? Is this a big deal or not? It is a big deal. And I'm going to show you very quickly why it's a big deal and why basically everyone here is going to have one of these things or something similar in the next 2 to 3 years. It's essentially the last piece of the tool that allows all the digital media to finally work in a consumption way. It's essentially the medium that lets you go to long-form books, serious, deep kind of understanding things, allows you to really sit with it, curl up with it, spend a lot of time with it. It's also the format that finally allows you to get newspapers and magazines in all its kind of glory in a way that you can really do it without the big broadsheets or the printed pages. And ultimately, it marries it at the same time with this extremely powerful new thing, which we're going to talk about a little bit, video. It is essentially this final interface that's bigger than the phone and mobile, but not as big as this kind of, even a laptop, which is too big to kind of lug around with you. This was the kind of the missing piece, and now it's in place. And the evidence is, when they came out with the iPad 2 about basically a year ago, or iPad 1 a year ago, in the first 9 months, they sold 15 million of these things, and it was basically considered the fastest growing new product in history, not just the fastest growing tech thing. They've never seen a product go that fast. Now the iPad 2 is out. Again, they didn't even wait a year. They're expecting at least 48 million, close to 50 million of these things. They're backlogged 6 weeks. You can't even get them now. And what the other thing is, you start to look at the other facts of this. People wondered if people would read books on these things. Apple has already sold, in the first 9 months, sold 100 million books. 100 million books. People are reading on that. That's just that. Now, the flip side is everybody's behind this. You went to the Consumer Electronics Show at the beginning of this year. There are no less than 50 tablets. 50 distinct companies with distinct tablets now following the wake of this thing. That's what happens when you start seeing the early majority kind of kick in here. And ultimately, you got, and that's now we talk about Amazon, 100 million books for Apple. They're not even in the book business. Basically, Amazon is. But look at these numbers. Amazon now sells more ebooks than paperback books. It's 3 times as many ebooks than hardbacks. And ultimately, they've got basically 800,000 titles now. They don't even have all the titles in there, but they're coming fast. If anyone needed evidence that this is the way people are going to read books, look at those numbers. So essentially, and then the next thing that's going to happen is the capability of these new tablets, because you can interact, you can see all these things, you've got video, is essentially you're watching the reinvention of books. And this is actually, Al Gore just came out with a book last Friday. It's the first version of a book I've seen like this that doesn't just about reading the books and flipping the pages. It's actually using video. It's using all kinds of interactive graphics, and it's actually doing what essentially is going to get reinvented there. My company is actually involved with a project now with a European company where we're doing the same thing with another book on the mobile media future. So you're watching the book get reinvented around this stuff, too. So just to remind you how that works, iPad 1, iPad 2, and these early things track the inevitable. This is what's going to happen in that space. Now, the second thing that's so wild about what Jobs was, he wasn't just working on consuming media. He's been thinking about producing media. And essentially what he's come up with the iPhone, was essentially a tool that allows anybody to essentially create media. So for example, This thing will shoot, the iPhone 4 now shoots HD video. HD video 10 years ago would have cost you $10,000 at least to get a good HD camera. And now, $199, and anybody will walk around with the HD version of that. You're always connected, you can always kind of report on stuff, and ultimately now you got 100 million iPhones now that have been sold in the last 3 years, and of course smartphones are following in their wake, the same thing like with the tablets. So on top of that, there's all these apps. So people say, well, what's apps? Apps are essentially making very complex things that are hard to do or only techies can do, just make it dead simple. So all you got to do is push your button and boom, something neat happens. It makes everything idiot-proof. And this is the way the computer industry is going now. It's like, and just, look at the numbers. Again, there's been 1 billion of these things that downloaded. Every day, 5.5 million. And of course, Google and Androids and all these different, all kinds of these are happening. They're happening now on TVs. They're happening on desktops. The app world is exploding, but making it easy for anybody to do complex things. Now, here's one of the things that's a forward spin thing that most people haven't really totally gotten, because I've kind of been laying out things that are starting to be understood. This one is one that I would really point to. Built into every iPhone now and every iMac and now every iPad is the ability to essentially communicate with full motion video between two people, two individuals. It's called FaceTime. And it hasn't really been pressed yet, but it's a little early in its phase. But this thing is a very big deal. This is essentially the way that we are going to open up full video channel between individuals, which will blow away voice channels or even particularly texting channels. And the reason this is important is we have essentially been perfecting for 1 million years how to communicate through our face. How do we communicate face to face? So when someone's winking at you, or they kind of screw their nose up, or they kind of you can read people beautifully, because we've had 1 million years of evolution to figure this out. You can't really figure out when that guy is texting you, something, what the heck he really means, what he's really feeling. You can't read him. We're going from that world to this world in the space of the next 5 years. That's a big deal. That really makes communication pretty amazing.